don't change. Anyone had that experience before? Yeah, some of us. Anyone had the experience of working with a client, working really hard, working really diligently, and they don't get the result that they want, and it has nothing to do with you, but they blame you for not getting the result? Anyone had that experience before? Yeah, everyone else is lying. Anyone else had the experience of having somebody, you're working with someone, you really want to help them, but no matter how hard you work with them, no matter how skilled that you are, they seem to self-sabotage. They don't do their homework, they don't follow the instructions. Anyone had a client like that before? Yeah, we all have, right? So today, I'm going to help you with those things, because I didn't really identify these 5 patterns of chronicity that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. What I realized is no matter what your client was coming to see you about, whether that be some kind of trauma, whether that be depression with some kind of guilt, some kind of shame, some kind of physiological problem, you could do all the work on that subject. You could do really diligent work with whatever your modality is. But if you don't take care of these 5 patterns that I'm pretty sure you're going to see in every client, the likelihood of your work sticking just drops drastically. Now, most people do really, really good work. You've trained so long in learning your skills. You're doing everything you're supposed to. But we've got to remember that our client might come in and their supporting problem might be, presenting problem, it might be, oh, you know what, I've got PTSD. So as healers, as therapists, as change workers, as the t-shirt says, we go after that, right? We go after the problem that they came in with. It makes sense. That's what they're paying us to do, to help. However, what I learned a long time ago, and I've been recently reminded, is the problem's never the problem. Problem's never the problem. So whenever a client comes into me, these 5 patterns that I'm going to bring up with you today, most of you have probably never seen these before, because I'd never seen them, or I'd never put a label on them. And I was always wondering why I'd have success with some clients and not success with other clients. And when I started to learn about these patterns, I now see them in every single client. Some are a little bit easier to detect. But the first thing is, when you start to detect these patterns, then you can start to inoculate against them. So you can start to build up that structure that holds up their problem. So again, we'll just use PTSD, for example. Whatever the presenting problem is here. Anyone ever played that drinking game, Jenga, before, with all the wooden blocks? Anyone ever played that game before? Just one person, everyone's lying. They're like, no, we don't drink, we don't have fun, we don't play that game. But there's this, if you've never seen it before, Jenga is these little wooden blocks, right? And it's a drinking game. And what happens is you remove blocks, and when you remove blocks, at some point, the whole structure falls down. And if it falls down on you, you lose, and you have to get blindingly drunk. That's right, one laugh there, thank you so much. Problems are a bit like that, and when clients come into my office, if you imagine right on the top, if you remove the block right on the top, and there's all these other blocks supporting underneath, they come in, they've got the PTSD. We want to help them. We go in, we try and remove or nuke or delete or put into quarantine, topical, right? That problem of PTSD to one side. We think we've done our job. We've done the best that we think that we can do, what we've been told to do. But that structure, all the other blocks are there. These 5 patterns of chronicity that I'm going to go over later is everything that's left. So sometimes a client will come with me, they have that specific problem, and I never address that specific problem. But when I start to break down those 5 patterns that they come in with, miraculously, that problem that they came in with, the presenting problem, remember the problem's never really the problem, but the PTSD or the unresolved trauma disappears, and it lasts. And I know that it lasts for most people because I follow up with my clients for up to 2 years, and the ones that respond to my follow-up tell me, Luke, we never actually dealt with my smoking, you never even talked about it in the session, but I just don't want to smoke anymore. So this is one of the most powerful things. If you want to be an even greater, more powerful agent of change, this is one of the most powerful things that you can do. But like I say, the first thing is acknowledging them. Who's ready to hear these 5 patterns? Excellent. Hey, but before I do that, I should probably introduce myself, right? Again, Luke Michael Howard, clinical hypnotist, owner of Lukenosis Hypnosis. Why should you listen to me? I've been doing this hypnosis and healing thing for about 23 years now, all around the world. I work with people that they believe that are unfixable. I work with people that believe their problems are unsolvable. I've worked for governments, I've worked for celebrities, but I've also worked for a lot of just normal folks in society that have run out of hope, and they sometimes frame me as being their last resort. I specialize in working with really, really difficult clients. A few years ago, the Hypnopixie said to me, you know what? It's an interesting thing I've noticed about you. What I noticed is a lot of other hypnotists, a lot of other trainers, they start referring people to you. I'm like, I didn't really realize. But they don't refer run-of-the-mill clients, for want of a better word. They give you their most difficult clients. And what I mean by difficult clients is, I often get emails or calls from other hypnotists or healers, and they're like, Luke, I've got this heroin addict, don't know how to help him. I've had this client, I've been working with them for their trauma for 6 months, and they've gone to 6 other hypnotists before me, and they're not changing, they're not moving. I've got this person who's been with me for weight loss, weight release for so long, and I'm really trying to help them, and they've done every diet and every hypnotist and healer, but nothing's shifting. Hey Luke, I've got this client here, and they've got a crystal meth addict, and I'm scared shitless to be working on that subject. Can you help them? So I get people like that, really resistant people. And so this stuff is tested in fire, should we say. I have a particular set of skills that make me a nightmare for my clients' problems. I say that to not impress you, but to impress upon you that one of the frames I go into all sessions with, and this might hold you in good stead, is I need to be more powerful, I need to be more stronger than whatever my client's problem is. So no matter how horrible their problem is, no matter how traumatic, no matter how scary the problem is, I have to have a state, an emotional state, a spiritual state, whatever that is to you, a mental state, a physical state that makes me more empowered, but more powerful than their problem. So that might be a first little takeaway for you. No matter what the problem is, it's okay. But you've got to go in there with that strength, that knowledge that you are going to bring more energy, more power to this. It's almost like the metaphor, right? You know, when you've got 2 aeroplanes and they're flying and someone hijacks an aeroplane. Oftentimes when they send the military up, what do they do to bring the plane down? They'll go above the plane and start to bring it down. That's the kind of way I look at sometimes clients with big, scary problems, right? Is here's the aeroplane. Now, if I try and help them to be here, they're going to leave and say, you know what, nothing worked. You didn't work. Like all the other people, it didn't work. If I come in equal to them, it's going to be like this. Maybe 50% of the time I win, maybe 50% of the time their problems win. But if I can get above that plane, above that problem, I can start to bring it down. So when they leave, they feel transformed. I have 2 offices. Well, I used to have 3 offices, one in Toronto, one in Ottawa, and one in Las Vegas, but now I do everything on Zoom. So all this stuff I'm going to tell you now, you can absolutely do it on Zoom. All right, enough speaking. Let me give you some practical stuff. The first pattern I see in clients is what we call in the patterns of chronicity, is the 3-stage ab reaction. Now, I don't see all 5 of these patterns with every client, but I'll definitely see 3 or 4, and a high percentage of them I will see 5. So some of these you're going to identify and you're going to know, and other ones you're going to be like, I'm not quite sure if I've seen that, Luke. But the first one I see almost all the time is the 3-step ab reaction, and it goes a bit like this. Before a client comes to see me, they've filled out a big screening form, all right? So I've seen if that's the kind of person I want to work with. Also, I've done a screening telephone call. I spoke to them for an hour for free to make sure that I can help them and they're going to be a good client. So I already know before I've taken any money if I can help them or not. And if I can't help them, I'm going to respectfully decline. I only want to work with people that I think I'm going to have some kind of agency, some kind of influence in a positive way to help them. So, 3-step ab reaction. It goes a bit like this. This is how you can identify it. And it's a technique clients will use, most of the time unconsciously, to manipulate us, to pull us into their victim story. And I'm not suggesting that they're doing it consciously. Oftentimes they're not even aware of it. But this is one of the underpinned structures that keep their problem in place. So it goes a bit like this. Client shows up 15 minutes late to the session. Hey, John, what happened? Oh, Luke, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. That's the first stage. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, but we need a full hour to do all the work and to do good quality work here. So I'm just curious, what happened? Look, I told you I don't want to talk about it. I'm getting angry. Second stage. They get angry, emotion. They've given us a warning, an unconscious warning the first time. Don't want to talk about it. Second stage is some emotion starts to get into it. Now, if you keep pushing at this point, yeah, but we really need the hour. What was more important than working on your sobriety? Listen, I told you, don't keep talking about it. You're making me angry. Listen, if you keep talking about it, I'm going to leave. Or I am going to throw that water on you. Or I'm going to get really, really, really angry and upset with you. And this happens in a lot of areas, because I would find that oftentimes, if I hit a nerve in the session, it was almost like this particular pattern was a way that they felt to preserve themselves. But oftentimes our clients, and again, not consciously but unconsciously, they've learned a certain set of behaviors to control or manipulate situations around them. And they may have learned it just because they wanted to feel more safety or security. And it may have served them at some point. But when it comes to change work, therapy, whatever you want to call the kind of work that we do, it's not good. So when I would work with a lot of other hypnotists and healers, they would be scared. They'd be scared to challenge their client because they didn't want to break rapport, right? We're always told we've got to have rapport with our clients to get change. And if I challenge them too much on this issue, it's going to break rapport. Also, we live in a society now where everyone's leaving reviews all the time. And you could do great work, but if you get a shitty review, it can hurt your business, right? So now you want to be authentic, but you also don't want to push it too hard because you don't want to get a bad review. So then you stop coming in at 100% and you start operating at about 50% because you're scared. If you actually challenge them, it's going to break rapport and they're not going to like you anymore. I realized a long time ago it's okay to piss people off and get quite comfortable at pissing people off because my intention was always to help them. And if I had to metaphorically slap them to get that change, because that's what they were paying me for, then that's what I was going to do. Because I realized by playing small, by playing soft and not bringing something up, because that wasn't the issue that they came with, then I wasn't really serving them. And then I would have these battles. Yeah, you know what? I see that pattern, that three-stage ab reaction. If I don't nuke it, if I don't deal with it now, this has the potential to derail this whole session, this work. They're not going to change. And guess what? They're not going to take responsibility. That's another pattern we'll talk about in a little bit. But they're going to blame me. So I'd have to call it out straight away. I'm going to tell you a little bit later on about how I call that out. But that's the first pattern. Anyone ever experienced that of the client? Does that ring true for anyone? Anyone ever identified? Yeah, a few people, fair enough. And that's just the way that you see it. But there's other ways you might see it. But it's generally, I don't like what you're doing to me, stop. And we're not talking about you doing something bad to them, but it's, again, a control mechanism. Second one, I told you, if you keep doing that, it's going to make me really upset and I'm going to cry. So stop asking me those difficult questions, all right? Because I'm going to cry. All right, listen, I'm upset. Stop asking me about it. I'm going to cry and I'm going to leave. Oh, and I'm going to leave you a bad review as well. Three-stage bad reaction. Now, the second pattern, and I'm pretty sure everyone's seen this if you work with clients, is when clients come to us and they stay at effect of their problem. Now, every client that comes to us is at effect of their problem. I know it's a bit jargon, so if you're not familiar with what effect is, the problem's being done to me. I have no power to make this situation any better. Because I dated one woman that broke my heart, every woman is bad news. Because I was once arrested, every policeman is bad. Because I had a one-time bad experience in Australia, Australia is a bad place. I'm the victim. Why is the world doing this to me? They're coming in at effect. Now, every client comes to us at effect, because if they weren't at effect, they would have fixed their issue, they would have healed themselves, they wouldn't need this anymore. So that's normal that they call us, they reach out to us to get some help. But here's where it becomes a problem, is no matter what work they do, they come in and like, oh, I've seen you online, Luke, I've watched your TED Talk, I've listened to your podcast, you're magnificent, you're wonderful, heal me. Change me, hallelujah, pull out your magic wand and do some hocus pocus while I just sit here. passively and do nothing, while you, the hypnotist, take responsibility of my life, and I'll just sit here and smile and nod occasionally. That's what I mean by being at effect in the session, all right? So I always see as a change worker, they come in effect. This is normal. My number one job is to get them over here, to be at cause. Because when they're at cause, they can start to shift, they can start to change. How they'll show me effect is they'll come into the session, and I'll ask them, did you do your homework? Did you listen to the recording that you can listen to when you go to sleep, so you don't even have to spend any more time doing it? No, I didn't do it. I thought this was just, I'd just do the hour with you and my life would change. Or they'll come in and they'll mistakenly think I'm a counsellor, nothing against counsellors. A psychotherapist, nothing against psychotherapists. A life coach, nothing against life coaching. And they expect it's going to be a conscious back and forth conversation where they get to unload all their feelings and how shitty their life is. They go into story mode. And while they're in story mode, they're at effect, and they can never be at cause because they're stuck in their story. So what I tell a lot of my clients is you can either keep your story or you can have change. But you can't have them both. So what do you want? Do you want to stay here and have that story that people will listen to because it's an amazing friggin' story? But if you're over here, you can't have the thing you paid for. So what do you want? So a big part of it is me consistently getting them back, getting them away from effect, getting them on cause. Who has experienced that with clients, that they come in at effect and they like to stay at effect? Yeah. So that's what I see my main job is to do, is to get them from effect to cause. So that's the second pattern that I see. I see that one with everyone. That's definitely one that I see with everyone. The third one, do you like that dramatic pause? That's pretty good, wasn't it? It was the maybe man. The maybe man. And not to be sexist, we can put woman, right? But the maybe man phenomenon. And here's the maybe man phenomenon. Luke, I've got anxiety. Hey, on a scale of 0 to 10, when you think about that thing that makes you anxious, where are you at right now? Oh, it's an 8 or a 9. Okay. I want you to put your hands together and just imagine they're stuck, they're glued together. Oh yeah, Luke, I'll try. I'm going to really try and do that. Are you going to be able to listen to the recording over the next week? You'll be able to do that, won't you? Maybe. Just did some phenomenon. Your fingers are coming together, but their fingers don't come together. Now, we know in hypnosis, this is not real hypnosis. If you just keep your fingers out there for the finger vice, eventually, physiologically, those fingers will come together. So whenever I do that with clients, I'm not looking to see how hypnotizable they are. I'm looking to see who's resisting. Because if someone keeps their fingers and they don't close after about 30 seconds or less, I know they're actively, consciously resisting the process and we have a problem. So if I see that with a client, or we're not moving as fast as I want things to move with a tapping modality or anything else, I'll say to them, rather than not call attention to it not working, right? Because as hypnotists, we don't want to be exposed. Holy shit, what if it doesn't work? I'm going to look like a failure, right? I'm going to look like a fake. No, I go into it. Hey, what just happened there? What do you mean, Luke? Your fingers, they didn't come together, did they? Oh no, but then it's a weird thing. They start to try and fight for me at that point. Oh no, but I felt them try to come together. No, but let's be honest. They didn't come together, did they? No, I guess not. So I know they're actively fighting at that point. Again, I'll say to them, so I'm just curious. That's interesting. It's an interest. I come in with the curiosity frame. It's interesting. What were you doing on the inside of your head? When I ask you to imagine in a way that feels right for you, that you've got the world's most powerful magnet strapped to the inside of those fingers, and when I snap my fingers, they're going to come together all by themselves. Watch it, don't fight it. When I ask you to do that, what are you doing? Oh, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You just did it 30 seconds ago. How can you not know your internal experience of 30 seconds ago? That's the maybe man pattern, that not following the instructions. How can they not know what they literally did 30 seconds ago? A lot of hypnotists, change workers will, oh shit, you know what? Let's go on to something else. This is not going to work. I go straight in. No, what happened? You must know what was going on inside your head. So what were you doing? Were you imagining the magnets? I know they weren't doing what I asked them to do. No. So what were you doing? I was just saying to myself, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work. Oh, thank you, that's great. So you were saying this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work. And it didn't work. Congratulations. So do you want to follow some instructions? And you already know it doesn't work, but do you want to follow some instructions now that can help you get out of this problem? Well, sure. So you really want to drill in. If someone says, hey, so that anxiety, where's your anxiety 0 to 10? Oh, Luke, it's between a 7 and a 10. No, what number is it between 7 and 10 now? I want to get the number specific. I want them to specifically give me a number, right? I'm going to try to do this. No, do it or don't do it. Like Yoda says, there is no try. Either do what you say you're going to do or stop the struggling and don't do it and be okay with it. But don't try. Oh, well, like, maybe. No, either make a decision you're going to do it or don't. Either is fine, but I make them get off the fence to make a decision about what they want to do. Because the more the direct they can be with their change and the clearer that they can be with how their change looks or feels or sounds to them, the more change that they can get. Example is, I used to have really difficult problem with clients who would come in and they wouldn't have a problem that I could just label. All right? Labels sometimes are useful for what we do. And they might come in, if the smoker wants to quit smoking, fantastic. It's pretty clear what they want to do. The porn addict's addicted to porn, they want to stop being addicted and watching porn. It's pretty clear what they want to do. But when the client comes in, it's like, Luke, I'm having an existential, it's easy for me to say, crisis in my life right now, can you help me? What the hell does that mean? There's nothing specific in that. So what does that mean? If I come and give you a hug, you're going to feel better, we fixed it? If you go on a vacation or buy an expensive car, does that fix it? I have no idea. I don't even know what the problem is. So it's about really drilling in. Why are you here? What specifically is your problem? What do you want to heal? Now, oftentimes, another example, who here works with smokers to help quit smoking? One person, all right. Oh, 2 people. Interesting. So the smoker comes in, they're calling me, right, because they want to quit smoking. They've given me all their reasons. So that's the problem. That's the Jenga block that I think that I'm trying to nuke and get rid of, right? Go through the screening call, and at the end, I ask an interesting question. They're coming to stop smoking. And at the end, I say to them, the question I say to them is, I know this sounds dumb given what we've been speaking about for the last 45 minutes. We're about 45 minutes into the screening call before I take them on as a client. I know this may sound a little bit stupid given what we've been speaking about for 45 minutes. We've been speaking about smoking. But what specifically do you want my help with? They want to quit smoking. Then they say, you know, Luke, I just want freedom in my life. I just want to be older and be there for my kids. I just want to be able to breathe more. I just want to have more money in my bank account. I just don't want to feel scared anymore. Different set of problems. Different set of problems. So I've had clients that came in as a smoker and I treat them as a smoker to quit smoking. And I delivered on what they initially came in as. And a few weeks later I'd email them and I would say, how's he doing? How you doing? And they'd be like, Luke, yeah, not so great. So I'd imagine they started smoking again. Send them another email. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What's going on? How many are you smoking now? Oh, no, I'm not smoking anymore. It had nothing to do with you, though. I just decided, surprisingly, after 30 years after the session, that I wanted to quit smoking. But yeah, it had nothing to do with you. I've quit it. I don't feel any better. I don't feel any more freedom. I don't feel any more happier. But I dealt with the problem. They were coming in with this, but what they really wanted was this. They were coming in with a presenting problem, I want to quit smoking. But really what they wanted is this, and there's a few different ways that they could have got freedom, there's a few different ways that they could have felt satisfaction, a few different ways they could have increased their cardiovascular system. It didn't have to be anything about a cigarette. But if I don't deliver this, and I only deliver on the outcome with them, helping them to quit smoking, and none of this stuff is attached, they think I'm a phony, they think I'm a fraud, they don't refer me, and they think they failed. It sounds ridiculous, right? I've had clients that generally didn't quit smoking, that's why they came in. But they left, and they continually felt a sense of freedom, more money in the bank, whatever they really wanted me to help with. And then they referred me to all of their friends. And it never made sense to me. I got you a result, you told no one about me, and you're unhappy. I didn't deliver a result to you, and you've just referred your whole family to me. It didn't make sense. But it's the maybe man, maybe woman phenomenon. You really want to key in, get them specific. Is it an 8 or a 9? And make them answer. I don't know what I was feeling. How can you not know? Tell me what you were doing inside your head so you can troubleshoot and find out what they really want. So never accept try, never accept maybe, never accept woolly answers, because then when change happens, it's a bit woolly. Well, I think I kind of almost sort of feel a bit better, but I don't know. No, you either feel better than when you first came in here or you didn't. That's it. So really, really want to lock into that. So that's the third pattern as he takes his blazer off now because he's getting hot. Number 4. Number 4. Who's ready for number 4? Put your arm up. There you go. Thank you so much. Audience participation. All right, number 4 is, oh, okay. The great big what if. The great big what if. Here's an example. How are we doing for time, by the way? What's the time? 11:28, great, I've still got time. So the great big what if goes a bit like this. They come in and, real client, change their name to protect their identity, like they're in the witness protection program. They come in and they are scared of aeroplanes. They're scared of heights, scared of aeroplanes more specifically. And they're coming to see me because in 2 weeks they're going to Mexico to get married. Great, so they come into the office and we're just about to work and they say to me, Luke, question, we're doing this work here today, we're just about to do this work right now, but how am I going to know that it worked until I was on the aeroplane? I'm not going to know if this worked if I changed. I've got a great way of bringing that up and great way of them knowing before they leave the office it either worked or it didn't. And they're like, look, because I'm not going to be on the plane so there's no way to test it. I'm saying that's an interesting thing, so you don't know about if this is going to work until you're actually on the aeroplane 2 weeks when I'm not going to be there and our work is finished. They're like, yeah. So I'm like, you actually think the problem is the plane, right? They're like, yeah, well, of course it's the plane. I'm terrified of flying. It's the plane's fault. I'm like, interesting. I wonder if I could just do a little experiment, frame it softly. You up for a little experiment? They're like, yeah, all right. Close your eyes. And I want you to imagine it's 2 weeks from now and you're on that aeroplane, and then suddenly the emotion comes up and I see that color change and that emotional shift. I'm like, where's the anxiety now that they couldn't find before? Because why would I feel anxious now? I'm not on the aeroplane. It's a 9. I already know it's a 9 because I've seen the shift in color. I've seen the body stiffen up. And I'll say, well, that's how you know. Because when we're done today, when you revisit that past memory or future memory, that 9, you'll still be able to see it, however you see it in your mind in a way that makes sense to you, but you won't be able to feel it. So you'll know that this shit worked. They're like, great. So do the modality, the hypnosis, the HUNA, the healing, timeline therapy, whatever the technique is. An hour later, we go back to test it. So imagine it's 2 weeks from now, you're on the aeroplane. Where's the fear gone now? Where's the anxiety gone now? And I'm not just listening to their words, I'm watching them. I'm watching their physiology because I took a mental picture when they first came in when they were in a fear state. And now I'm comparing it to the end. So yeah, I'm listening to them, but I'm comparing the two pictures. Fear state when they came in and now there should be none. There should be an absence of it, right? So I'm looking for major markers. And they're like, oh, yeah, look, it's still not my most favorite thing in the world, flying on an aeroplane, but, you know, I guess I'm going to be up there for 4 hours and, you know, I read a magazine. I'm like, what about the anxiety? No, I just feel neutral, just feel neutral about it. Like, really try, really try. And I'm like, I'm not doing this as a trick. I know as hypnotists, like, oh, try and do this and try and do that when we don't want. I'm like, no, generally, I really want you to look for the anxiety in that future memory. And if you can find any, we've got more work to do, but if there's truly none left, you won't be able to find it. And I give them some time. I step back, I let them try and scan it and find it. And I'm not talking, I just give them a moment. And they're like, no, can't find it. I'm like, no, really give it a good look so you're really satisfied that this is done. Because remember, I'm not going to be there 2 weeks from now. This is the time that if there's any left, we need to get rid of it now. Like really give it a good strong test to see if it's there. And no, I don't find it. I'm like, awesome. They smile, they're happy. I've compared the two pictures in my mind. Yeah, this one's completely different from this one. Great. They're confirming it to me, but they're not really confirming it to me. That's not for my ego, it's for them. Because when the words come out of their own mouth, they're confirming it to them. But here's where the great big what if come. This is number 4, the great big what if. Anyone remember the TV show Columbo, Detective Columbo? Yeah? Do you remember Columbo? It's an old detective show, Peter Falk. And he was known because he would seem a little bit of a dummy. A lot of the criminals would think he was an idiot, but he was really cunning. He was really sneaky. He was a lot smarter. So people misjudged him and his intelligence as a detective. They'd figure that they'd pulled a fast one and a murder and they'd got off, right? And every episode it would have this scene. They think they got away with their crime of the century. And it's come into about the last 10, 15 minutes of the episode. And he would step forward, he'd be ready to walk out of the room, and he would turn over his shoulder and say, oh, just one more thing. Just one more thing, Luke. When I am actually on the aeroplane next week, what about the fear? What if? What if I hit turbulence? What if the fear comes back? What if this doesn't work? Now, the what ifs come at the end of the session, so no matter how good or thorough our work was here, that what if has the potential to unravel everything we have just done, and they're going to be completely unsatisfied. By the way, the what if is a different problem. It's anxiety. So if they were coming in with a different problem, the what if is always linked strongly to anxiety. So I'm like, hold on. You still think the problem is about the aeroplane? Do you remember at the beginning when I said to you, it has nothing to do with the aeroplane, because you can have fear 2 weeks before you go on the aeroplane when you're at home lying on your bed because you can't go to sleep, and you can bring up the fear. Where's the aeroplane then? And they look at me like this. Oh, I don't know. No, where's the aeroplane? It's in my head. Yeah, it's in your head. It has nothing to do with the aeroplane at all. It's your internal representations or how you're seeing it, feeling it, experiencing it in your body. They're like, okay, so I'm like, so let me get this right. Yeah, but Luke, what if it comes back? To which I say, so let me get this right. It's a 0 right now, isn't it? Give it another test. So I'll hit the test again. Think of the most traumatic memory or future memory that you can have. Bring it up. Where's the feeling? Well, I can't feel it. So I've retested again. I'm like, so let me get this right. 2 weeks from now, you're going to get on that aeroplane to Mexico and you're going to fly off. Are you going to have a different head than you have right now? They're like, look at me, puzzled. Are you going to have a different brain than you have right now? They're like, well, no, I guess it's the same head and it's the same brain. So what's going to be different from what the change that you just made now and bringing it into next week? It's the same person, the same brain. They're like, oh yeah, because they still think it's about the aeroplane and not how they're processing it. So you have to be very careful with clients when it comes to what if. And oftentimes what ifs can be really disguised in such a way that you really think, oh, that's a really good question they're asking. I'm going to answer that. That's a really good question. However, it's a what if question. And every what if question is going to unravel your work unless you deal with it there and then, no matter how good you are. So no matter what my client's presenting problem is, I always do a little bit of anxiety work or future pacing because I want to nuke, I want to get rid of, I want to delete the what if. So when they're there, every kind of scenario they could have gone through, they've experienced it. They know, oh yeah, I'm the same guy, just still 2 weeks old, the same head, same brain, aeroplane, I'm not scared of aeroplane. And I'll say something to them like, if aeroplane was the problem, then every single human being on earth would be scared of flying. And I don't know what the specific statistic is, but let's say it's, I don't know, 10% of people on earth are scared of flying. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit less or more. There's still a huge amount of people that either enjoy flying or are completely neutral to it. It's never the aeroplane, it's always our filtering systems. So be careful of the what if. Oh, look, I'm doing really well now, but what happens in a couple of weeks when I go to this? I'm doing good, there's another issue. I'm releasing weight, it's going really, really well. I'm down 15 pounds, it's going great. I feel all this empowerment. But you know what, I've got this wedding coming up, and what happens at the wedding if I eat too much? Got to deal with it. You've got to deal with that right then and there, because if you don't deal with it, they're going to come in next time, and they're going to come from this place of eating too much cake at the wedding, rather than, oh yeah, I'm taking the change with me. Another little sneaky thing I do with my clients is, and it's a bit easier now on Zoom, because we're in people's homes or wherever they're doing the Zoom with me at work. Oftentimes when I'd work with clients, The change would get generalized to my office, my physical office, but I'd forget to tell them to bring the change or the transformation out with them. I know it sounds like a little thing. So what would happen is oftentimes the client who called me up for the screening called the heroin addict or the smoker is not the same client that comes to my office. Now they look the same, they have the same fingerprint, they have the same eye color, they have the same SIN number, the same passport, but it's very different because they called me up in a state of, oh, I've got to get rid of this, or they're jonesing for their drug. And they're in their home or typically environment where they might engage in that particular behavior activity. But when they came to my office, they had no intention of shooting up heroin, or crystal meth, or smoking, or eating 10,000 calories, or jumping out of an aeroplane. All right? So when they show up, they're generally passive a lot of the times. And I have a big belief that the only way we can start to collapse that Jenga block or that structure is we need to be in the problem with them at the bottom, almost like the Navy SEALs, right? The Navy SEALs underwater demolition. If the client is not in the problem, but they're watching it, or as we say, dissociated instead of associated, it's a bit like you go to a fairground and you watch somebody on a roller coaster versus being on the roller coaster. Now, if they're coming from a place of being dissociated, to get neurological on you, it's that neurological pathway in their brain isn't lit up. So if they're talking about it passively, oh yeah, you know, when you do this and you do that, it's another way to dissociate. Not when I'm on the aeroplane or when I'm having the problem or the panic attack. You know, when you have that panic attack, you know, when you're on the aeroplane, that's another way they do the maybe or the what if. So whenever you hear a you know, it seems like such a small thing, right? You have to be like, well, no, I don't have that problem. We're talking about you. So please, going forward, please, when you're talking about your problem, say I, say me, whatever your name is, say Luke. And later on, they'll slip up again. You know, Luke, when you have that problem when you're doing heroin, well, no, I've never done heroin, so I'd have no idea. Why are you talking about me? Do you know my history? No. So please talk about you, because they keep dissociating from the problem. And that sounds powerful at some points, but they're dissociating at the wrong time. When they want to quit doing the heroin, the panic attack, they're in it. That's when they don't want to be it. That's when they want to dissociate. But when they come to the office, they're dissociated. So it means everything's passive. So we need to get them into the problem state, light up that neurology so we're in the building, and we pull out that jungle block so we can knock that whole thing down, or like the Navy SEALs, explode it. Does that make sense for people? Yeah? Get inside the problem, get them associated into the problem, the great big what if. So be very, very careful on answering questions, and they will often come at the end of the session. What if, what if, what if? Before they leave your office, you got to deal with that. You've got to deal with the what if, and there's a few ways that you can deal with it. 5, pattern number 5. What's the time? Lady, you told me the time before. 11:40, thank you, perfect time. So, number 5, this is a big one. Looking for evidence of the problem rather than evidence of the solution. Looking for evidence that the problem still exists rather than looking for solution that it's been healed, that it's gone, that it no longer is pertinent in their life. Here's an example. 2 twin boys, they're both called John. John 1, John number 2. They're both 12. They go to the doctors. They have chicken pox. They walk into the doctors. They've both got 100 spots on their face. This is a very anal, very specific doctor. He's counting the spots on their face. They come in, and their mum is like, oh, I got all these spots. Can you give them some ointment, some medication to help clear this up? Gives them the medication. They're going to come back for a checkup in 2 weeks. They come back 2 weeks later. John number 1 comes in. It didn't work, I've still got spots. 99 of these spots are now gone. 1 still persists. He's focusing on the 1 that persists, and that 1 out of 100 that still persists represents to him 100% of the problem not being healed. Looking for evidence of the problem still there. Versus John number 2, his twin brother, the only difference is he was born 7 minutes later. He comes in. That's right. He had 100 spots, John number 2 we're talking about. He now has 99. 1 spot is gone. And he's like, oh, wow, it's amazing. Yeah, the ointment, the cream you gave me worked really, really well. It's going great. He's still got 99 spots, but 1 disappeared. Looking for facts of the solution that something shifted versus not everything's perfect right now. So oftentimes I'll get a client and they'll say, Luke, I'm doing cocaine. This is my client, not me. I'm straight edge. But they'll come in and they'll say, Luke, I don't know, I spend 10 grand a month on cocaine. I want to quit it. Okay. We do all the work. They'll work with me, let's say 3 sessions, whatever. And now, at the end, instead of doing coke every night, instead of dropping, I don't know, what's that, 2.5 grand a week, 10 grand a month, what's that, 120 grand a year. Session number 3, they're still doing coke, but now they only spend $250 on versus 10 grand a month. They're still doing it, but they've gone from however much of this crap they were digesting over here to a small amount. Were they successful or did they fail? Well, it's up to their mindset, right? It's like the boys with the spots. 99 went, but 1 exists. It failed. It didn't work. Perfectionist mindset. Versus the boy that only 1 disappeared. And he focuses in on the success. Oh my God, 1 disappeared. This stuff really works well. In 100 weeks, they'll all be gone. That's right. Very good. So who's right? Well, it depends on how they're focusing on the problem. But one little sneaky thing I do with my clients before they leave my office is I say, hey, just before you leave, what I want you to do over the next week is I just want you to focus on difference. They're like, what? Because difference is opposite to their problem, right? Most people are going to be here. They are going to look for, you know what, even though I had 100 pounds to lose, I lost 95. I failed. They're focusing on the 5 pounds versus the 95 pounds they lost. This is going to mess them up and eventually probably lead them to gaining even more weight, all right? It's the perfectionist mindset gets linked into this one, focusing on the problem versus focus on the solution, focusing on evidence that the problem still exists versus focusing on evidence that the solution still exists, right? So it's the perfection mindset. Now, nobody's perfect, even though my mum would say otherwise. No one's perfect. So if they come in with the black and white thinking, oftentimes these clients are identified because they have black or white thinking. It's very digital. It's either all or nothing. It's either black, it's white. It's either good or it's bad. Guess what? A lot of times it's analogical. A lot of times it's analog. It's right in the middle. So if they focus on, Luke, you know what? I was having a panic attack 3 times a day, every day when we started. So what's that? That's 21 a week, right? And now, I have 1 panic attack every 2 weeks. But did they fail or were they successful? Because this one over here was having, 21 a week? So in 2 weeks, that's 42. Now they're having 1. So it just, were they successful or they were failing? It depends on if they're focusing on what changed, the difference, versus the problem. So I always tell my clients before they leave, as a last suggestion before they leave the office, over the next week, I just want you to notice difference. It might be small difference. It might be medium difference. It might be big difference, but focus on difference. Why don't I give them that suggestion with their eyes open at the end? Because I know they're still very, very suggestible at that point. But also want to start to direct their mind to start being like the boy with 1 less spot versus the boy with 99 less spots. Because if they focus on the problem, did I get better, did I get better, did I get better? They're always in the problem. This is when they don't want to be in the problem when they're out of the office. Versus difference. Well, what was different today? Well, I got that same stimulus, so when that pretty girl looked at me and I started to get flush and red in my face, oh yeah, but then I was able to say hi. Oh, that was different. I'm going to make a note of that. Now they have a reference point inside their head for their unconscious, their subconscious, their monkey mind. Oh, you know what? Instead of binging and overeating every night, what was different? Oh, I only binged 3 times. Oh, so there was difference. Now, people's tendency is, yeah, but it's not perfect yet. I'm not perfect. Like I said, even I'm not perfect. Even though my mum would say different. So, you've got to get them out of that perfection mindset because it's a game they can't win. If they're playing the game of perfection, it's a game they can't win, right? So you've got to break that paradigm down and get them to focus what was different. Well, Luke, I came in. So when clients first come in for second session, right, I'll say to them, hey, was your problem, over the last week, are you better? Are you the same? Or are you worse? Is your problem, your presenting issue, whatever it is it better, is it the same, or is it worse? It can only be 3 answers. If it's better, fantastic. If it's worse, great, movement. The problem becomes when they say, nothing changed. Because you know, well, I know they're lying. Something changed. You cannot change. There's one thing I know for sure in life, and a law of the universe, is we cannot not change. So when they see, if you just sat there in your seats, and 2 weeks from now we checked in with you, you might think, well, nothing changed. Well, you're 2 weeks older. There's literally billions of cells that would have come into your body and died. Thought patterns would have changed. Neurological pathways, muscles atrophying. You cannot not change. It's the one consistent. So when clients tell me nothing changed, I know they're lying. Or, more akin, they're being a perfectionist and they're focusing, oh, they're forgetting, you know what, 99 spots gone. They're focusing on, it's not perfect yet. So by asking them what was different, it starts to train their RAS, their reticular activating system, the pattern reacting software in our brain, to start looking for change. Ladies in the audience, not to be sexist, guys can do this as well. You might have this particular fetish as well. Have you ever bought like some really cool shoes, some really sexy shoes, some really wonderful shoes? You're like, oh, these shoes are amazing, I love them. I've never seen anyone else wear them. Get these shoes, you put them on, you leave the house and you see another woman with the same shoes. These unique shoes to you, or that unique handbag, or that unique car. Then suddenly, you see 2 people when you're walking to work with the same car, the same shoes, the same handbag. Did they just get it because I got it? Are they copying me? Oh, I thought I was special. No, they already had the shoes. They already had the car. They already had the handbag. You just didn't notice before because you weren't looking for it. Your RAS, your reticular activating system of your brain, starts to look. Because I've got these shoes, you start to notice if other women are wearing the shoes. Guys, women, whatever, the car, you've got a new car. Other people got the same car, the same bag, whatever that particular thing is. So you want to start to train their brain to start to look for difference, because the more difference they notice, even if it might be really, really small, they start to get more and more and more. So you're literally doing the neurological process of what they would say in neuroscience as pruning, right? The old pathway in the brain is the problem pathway. I've got this particular problem, versus pruning. You do the healing work, whatever, they sleep, and eventually that old neurological pathway of the problem gets switched off in time, and that new pathway is open to change. What is the time, lady, in the whatever row that is? 11:49. I've got 1 more minute, but I've got no one else after me, and I started a little bit late. By the way, if you notice in your manuals in front of you, today my name is Luke Thomas. That's not my name. It's Luke Michael Howard. My badge says it on the screen, and tomorrow at my talk, it's Luke Howard. I don't know who this Luke Thomas is. I think he's in the Witness Protection Program. When is it okay to ask a what-if question? Well, when you do a presentation like this. So, anyone got any questions about, I know I vomited over you a lot of beautiful information today in a nice, most pleasant way possible. Does anyone have any questions about any of that stuff that I covered today? If you do, I'm going to stay here and answer, because there's no one following me, because I think we've got lunch after this. You can just put your hand up and I'll come. Yes, lady, right there. I saw you as well. Lady, then I saw you. Yes, this lady. Yeah. They say the same. What is your initial reaction? You're a fucking liar, is my initial reaction. It's true. And they laugh because they know what to expect. The lady asked if a client's come to me and I asked them if the problem on session 2 or subsequent sessions is better, worse, or the same. If they say better, it's good. If they say worse, I can still work with that. If it's the same, it's a problem, because there's a pattern of chronicity that's operating. It might be the one we're talking about. So typically I'll do that. And sometimes that kind of provocative language, but said with a little wry smile, is enough to collapse it right there. Oh, you know what? Yeah, now that I think about it, you know that anxiety was a 9. Yeah, you know what, it was a 2. Or I'll bring my notes back in. And I remember, so nothing changed. All right, so now when you think of that memory, blah, 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 what is it now? Well, it's a 2. Oh, nothing changed, right? No, nothing changed. You know, last week when I asked you that, you said it was a 7. And you just said it's a 2, right? Yeah. Do you remember you said 7? Because I made a note. Or the recording, whatever. Oh, no, I forgot that I said that. Oh, yeah, I guess it is better. So sometimes actually just coming back with them with logic And just knowing, but playfully, but question them sometimes, and I will be provocative with them. Yeah, does that answer your question? Cool, thank you. Lady at the back, I think, put her hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear me okay?
I can hear you okay, yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you, sometimes.
Thank you, great presentation.
Thank you.
So on step 4, on the what if, you did talk about the disassociated and associated, but what if in the airplane situation,
What if?
they don't feel the fear until they're in the airplane?
Oh, I'll give them a panic attack in my office.
What?
I'll give them a panic attack in my office. I'll prod it and I'll make sure they feel it. Because here's one thing I know doing this for 23 years. If they're dissociated from the problem in my office, I cannot collapse it. I cannot help them or aid them in collapsing it itself. Because I don't believe I'm doing any work. I believe they're doing the work. I'm just guiding them. They need to be in it. Because even if we just take away all the hocus pocus and nonsense, if we look at neuroscience, the only way to collapse it is to be inside it. It's got to be lit up. If it's not lit up, it's almost like trying to be a fighter, right? And you've never had a fight, you've never sparred with anyone, you're a boxer or an MMA fighter, and all you do in your room is you hit the air, but you never spar or you never fight with someone, and now we put you in the UFC, or now we put you in a real fight. It doesn't matter how often you were punching air or a bag, if you haven't trained with real bodies, you're going to get your ass kicked. So I'd rather them getting their ass kicked in an ethical way in my office so we can nuke it versus them getting their ass kicked out in the real world and being in danger. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so are you saying that you've never had a client that you couldn't get back into the association?
First of all, I don't make a client do anything. I don't change them, I don't heal them. I just have a space for them to step into to make those particular changes. Now, I know that they can have panic or whatever the emotion is. Otherwise, they wouldn't call me. If they couldn't associate into the problem, they wouldn't have called me. But they just forgot to bring it to my session. So I need to make sure they bring the problem to the session. And if they forgot, I need to erect it in the session to bring it up, because it's the only way I can help them. Like the Navy SEAL, we can only destroy the building if we put the Semtex and the explosives at the bottom of the building. Not so much if we put a few miles away. We need to be inside the building in order to collapse it through neuroscience. Does that make sense? Okay. Cool. I think the gentleman there had a question. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got any more questions, grab me up. I'm Luke Michael Howard of Lukenosis, Hypnosis. So we've got another talk here tomorrow at 2:30 on the Hawaiian shamanistic healing principles of Huna. So join me. Again, I'll be walking around. Ask me any questions that you want. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And always believe.